Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon also. I am very glad to be here with you holding this session. This crew is like you also in very diverse regions and geographies. So myself, Margarita Gonzalez, I am Agronomy Director for Yara Latin America, and I'm based in Buenos Aires. This team today that is contributing to making this happen is also consolidated by Alejandro Torres. He's sitting in Mexico and he's supporting us with all this organization. So thank you, Alejandro. And the Genetica, the star today, he is the senior agronomist and senior scientist from Germany, and he's sitting near Dulmen. So different regions, different time zones, but one same goal, that is to really go through this very important topic, which is related to the global challenge we have, how we can contribute from crop nutrition management to the challenge of water scarcity. So today we will talk about water use efficiency, the agriculture challenge, and crop nutrition management opportunities. I am very pleased to introduce to you the Genetica. He is a senior scientist at Yara and holds a PhD in plant nutrition. He has more than 20 years of experience in agriculture research, developing research projects, designing and executing field and laboratory experiments, data analysis and scientific paper writing as well. His research activities range from molecular techniques of gene identification to agronomic field experimentation. He has published several research articles in international journals on topics related to fertilizer use efficiency, crop stress resistance, and regulation of gene expression. He joined Yara International at Haringhoff Research Center in 2012, where his research areas include crop nutrition and water use efficiency, of course, fertilizer management and greenhouse gas emissions, and agronomic efficiency of recycled nutrients in relation to Yara's circular economy activities. So, welcome again. I will leave you now with the Genetica, who will hold this session and share with you his knowledge and experience. So we will take a space for Q&A at the end. Please write your questions or comments in the chat box. We will be pleased to address it at the end. Thank you very much.
Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in the globe. Thank you very much, Margarita, for the nice introduction. So I can directly go into the topic of today. Let me see if you hear me. Give me a signal if my sound is coming through. Great. So the topic of my talk today will be water use efficiency. And this is how to get more crop per drop of water using better nutrient management. The content of my talk will be as follows, as outlined here. First, we'll talk about agricultural water use and the need of water use efficiency. And secondly, we will discuss how to increase water use efficiency, the methods and possibilities. After that, we will talk about the role of crop nutrition on water use efficiency. Under this subtitle, we will discuss 10 things like rate of fertilizer application, the method of application, and selection of nutrient forms. We'll also touch upon the role of irrigation water management on water use efficiency, and finally, how best practice nutrient management saves land and water, taking a study or a case study in Brazil. And finally, I will summarize what we have discussed during this session. Just to begin, consider two adjacent fields, one with low nutrient supply or low nitrogen supply, and the second one with optimum nitrogen supply, growing like that. So if you see these two fields and would like to get the same amount of crop, like just 1 ton of grain, how much water do you need to apply? How much water is required under these two contrasting management scenarios to get or to obtain the same amount of yield? Just consider this and think about it. I hope to give you the answer at the end of this talk as we go through. Well, before going into the role of crop nutrition in water use efficiency, I think it is necessary to ask, why are we interested in water use efficiency? Why do we need to consider water use efficiency as such? There are projections that in the coming years, particularly in 2050, the world population is going to reach 9 billion, and this trend has its own consequence. For the increasing number of world population, definitely agricultural production has to increase in order to feed the whole world population. That means agricultural production has to increase, and there are estimates which indicate that at least 50 to 70% yield increase or agricultural production increase is to be expected or to come in order to feed 9 billion people. And this increase in production means that more land and more water is used. These are the two very important agricultural resources, arable land and fresh water. But the amount of water and land which is freely available to double production is not there. I mean, there is a shortage of land, obviously, and also there is shortage of water. So what is the solution under this circumstance? We think that the solution or the challenge is then to increase resource use efficiency. In this case, I consider the water as a very important resource in agriculture, and increasing water use efficiency is very important. If we look the amount of water which is used in agriculture, considering the global freshwater withdrawal, the agriculture dominates the largest percentage of water consumption compared to any other human activity. So the agricultural water consumption is about 70% of the total water consumption, freshwater consumption. And this huge amount of water consumption in agriculture has great significance for water sustainability for two main reasons. First of all, as I already mentioned, with increasing population, agricultural production has to increase. that means water consumption, agricultural water consumption will also increase, putting even much more pressure on water resource of the world. This is one thing. Secondly, considering the large amount of the large proportion of water which is used in agriculture, if agricultural water consumption or agricultural water use is improved, then the contribution to sustainable water management will be high, because if we improve in this water use efficiency in agriculture, because of its large share, even a small improvement will save a lot of water as compared to improving efficiency in other sectors like power management or power supply or domestic water consumption. So the question is, why is agriculture using so much water? If we see this graph, this is the amount of water or the proportion of water which is used during a given growing season. It is taken from rain-fed and irrigated agriculture in semi-arid regions. If we see these bars, about between 70 to 80% of water is lost in agriculture unproductively. So it is only the top, let's say roughly 20 to 30% of the seasonally available water which is used by the plant for crop production, that is a transpiration part. But the rest of water which is used during the growing season, whether it is in irrigated agriculture or in rain-fed agriculture, it is lost unproductively through during storage and conveyance in case of irrigation, evaporation losses, runoff and drainage. And under rain-fed condition, in a similar way, about 70% of seasonal water is lost through evaporation and runoff and also drainage. So the reason why agriculture requires a lot of water is obviously because of huge amount of unproductive water loss. Before discussing more about water use efficiency, I think it is necessary to first define the term. In this case, I considered only one definition of water use efficiency. There are obviously different definitions of water use efficiency, but I considered only one, which is agronomic water use efficiency, because it has a more practical relevance to the farmer. Agronomic water use efficiency is defined as the amount of economic yield produced per unit of water used during a growing season. It is also synonymously used with crop water productivity, and as I do my talk, I may interchangeably use water use efficiency and crop water productivity. The unit for water use efficiency is gram of product, gram of grain yield, for example, or gram of food yield per liter of water, or it can also be kilogram per cubic meter of water. So both units are, in terms of ratio, they are equal. So 1 gram of a product per liter of water is the same as 1 kilogram of a product per cubic meter of water. So if you see this formula, water use efficiency, agronomic water use efficiency is simply the ratio of yield over the water use. And in the lower equation, you see the water use during a given growing season can be grouped into different categories. These are transpiration, which is transpiration from the plant, bare soil evaporation, which is a loss directly from the soil, runoff losses, and drainage below the root zone. So once we defined water use efficiency, it is then necessary to ask how to improve crop water use efficiency. Here I indicated 3 very important factors how to improve water use efficiency. One is by reducing unproductive water loss. As I indicated in the 2 previous slides, the unproductive water loss in agriculture is a lot. It's a huge percentage. So improving unproductive water loss improves water use efficiency. Secondly, increasing crop growth per unit of water. That means if we improve crop growth per unit of water transpired from the crop, that also increases water use efficiency. And thirdly, increasing the conversion of crop biomass to crop yield. That means increasing the conversion efficiency of biomass to harvestable yield. If we are able to increase the conversion efficiency of crop biomass to harvestable yield, then that also contributes to improving water use efficiency in agriculture. During a given growing season, there are water inputs and water outputs. Water input to a cropland can be directly from the rainfall or from irrigation water or from both. That means rainfall and supplemental irrigation. This is the input part, and the output part includes transpiration through the crop. That means water taken up by the crop and transpired to the atmosphere. The second one is evaporation, direct evaporation from the soil. This is unproductive water loss. The transpiration is water loss, but it is a productive water loss because it contributes to crop growth. I will discuss it in the next slides. Another loss pathway is runoff from the field. And finally, also another loss pathway is a drainage, which is percolation of water beyond the root zone. So in the agricultural field, the 2 main loss pathways are the 2 major loss pathways are evaporation from the soil and drainage below the root zone. And I will discuss how beta crop nutrition can reduce these losses. We did a field experiment here at our research station in the field in order to determine the amount of evaporation loss from the soil. For this purpose, we used mini lysimeters, which are installed into the field, and by weighing these lysimeters, we determined the amount of water lost through evaporation. And the result is that we measured average water loss during the growing season, about 15 cubic meter per hectare per day in the end efficiency condition, as compared to only 5 cubic meters of water per hectare per day in the optimal nitrogen supply condition. So from this, we can clearly see that good nutrient management reduces unproductive water loss and thereby increase crop water use efficiency. Secondly, if you see this this picture, this is a very interesting, relatively old picture, but it's a great message. Where you see the root growth under different potassium supply levels. With optimal potassium supply, the roots grow deeper and vigorous and also growing deeper. But under low potassium supply, root growth is poor, and also it's not going deep into the soil profile. So if a plant is having vigorous root growth and deeper root growth, it can take up water from the deeper soil profiles, and through that it reduces percolation or drainage losses. So the water that would have been lost through percolation can be used by the crop if the crop has a good root system. So this is also where the good crop nutrition contributes to reducing unproductive water loss through drainage losses. So we have seen in the two last slides that good crop nutrition reduces unproductive water loss. In the second case, we look into how to improve biomass production or crop biomass production per unit of water used or per unit of water transpired. Here it is necessary to see the relationship between biomass and transpiration. Crop transpiration is very much linked to crop biomass, because for biomass production, the crop has to make photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is the basis for crop growth. And during photosynthesis, the plant leaves open their stomata in order to take in carbon dioxide, which is, there's a carbon dioxide coming from the air. When the stomata is opened, the plant loses water passively, because the water vapor which is in the plant itself is it has high water vapor compared to the water vapor in the air. So due to vapor pressure gradient, water is lost to the atmosphere, and this is called transpiration. Almost 99% of the water which is taken up by the crop is lost through transpiration. And this loss, as I previously mentioned, it's not unproductive water loss, although it is still huge, but it is productive water loss. Why? Because it's directly linked with crop biomass. So with increasing transpiration, we can see that the biomass production also increases. So, but with a good nutrient management, it is possible to increase the amount of biomass produced per unit of water transpired. And for this, we can see during the next slides. And you know, photosynthesis is a very important process for the crop production, for crop growth. Without this process, there is no crop growth at all, and it is like a factory, or like it's a machinery which produces crop biomass, and it uses three very important resources. One is water, nutrients, and air. When I say air, it is carbon dioxide. And in this process, this process is a complex process, and nutrients play a very important role also for the making of photosynthesis. And I would like to mention just a few elements which are directly involved and have significant role in photosynthesis. If you take nitrogen, it is a building block of chlorophyll. The chlorophyll molecule is the molecule which is harvesting light, and out of light energy producing chemical energy or fixes carbon dioxide. Nitrogen is also a component of proteins and enzymes, particularly the enzyme Rubisco, which contributes about 50% of the leaf protein. Is obviously important for photosynthesis. This is an enzyme which first fixes CO2 into photosynthetic assimilate. Phosphorus is also very important for photosynthesis. It is important for ATP synthesis. The ATP which is synthesized is used to fix carbon dioxide during photosynthesis process. Phosphorus is also important for Rubisco activation by phosphorylating and dephosphorylating the Rubisco enzyme, and it is involved also in starch synthesis. Potassium is an important element in stomata regulation. You know, when the stomata is opening and closing, potassium is going into the guard cell or pumping out of the guard cell, which makes stomata open and close. So it is important for stomata regulation. If the plant is under potassium stress, then stomata regulation will be difficult, and the plant is not able to close its stomata as required. So it can passively lose water if potassium supply is limited. Potassium is also very important for transport of photosynthetic assimilates, especially in the xylem loading. So photosynthesis is producing sugar and assimilates in the leaves, and it has to be transported from the leaf to storage organs like tubers or the grain, and phosphorus is important for loading the sugar into phloem. Magnesium, magnesium is a central element in the chlorophyll molecule, and so it is very important for photosynthesis. And magnesium is also important for enzyme activation, and most of the enzymes are activated when it is linked to magnesium. And also for ATP function, magnesium is important. ATP that we know as ATP is also only functional when it is attached to magnesium, so magnesium ATP. So having this in mind, we did an experiment where we measured crop transpiration and crop growth or biomass growth. In this study, evaporation is completely excluded, so there is no water loss through evaporation. We used for this purpose a special pot setup where we avoided any evaporation loss, and only whatever plant takes up, it is whatever water is lost, it's only lost through transpiration. So we used two nitrogen levels, one low nitrogen level and optimal nitrogen level. And we measured also the water consumption, and the water use efficiency was expressed as a ratio of biomass growth to the transpiration. So what we have found was that under low nitrogen supply condition, the water use efficiency was about 2.9 grams of crop biomass per liter of water. But under optimal nitrogen supply, the biomass water use efficiency was about 3.8 grams per liter of water. So here also we can clearly see that good nutrient management increases water use efficiency, in that the production of biomass per unit of water consumed or per unit of transpiration increased. We did a more detailed study on this one by using different nitrogen levels. So like a dose response curve, and measured shoot biomass, amount of water transpired, and the biomass water use efficiency, which is actually the ratio of shoot biomass and transpirational water. We see here that with increasing nitrogen supply, the shoot dry matter increased, but at the same time, the amount of transpiration water increased with increasing nitrogen supply. But what we can see here, interestingly, is that the ratio of, or the rate of biomass increase is much higher than the rate of increase in transpiration. So in the end, when we see the biomass water use efficiency, which is the ratio of shoot biomass to transpiration, it increased. So the water use efficiency increased with increasing nitrogen supply. So this again tells us that with optimal nutrient supply, water use efficiency increases. That means amount of biomass per unit of transpired water can be improved. So the third factor, which I mentioned, the conversion of biomass to harvestable yield, which is termed as harvest index. In order to see the effect of nutrient supply on crop harvest index, we used pepper and grown it at 3 sulfur supply levels. You see, sulfur supply level 1 and 2 are in deficiency, sulfur deficiency levels, whereas sulfur supply 3 is optimal sulfur supply. So if you see this first 2 pots, the yield is, biomass yield is already very low, but in addition to that, there is no fruit yield. I mean, there is no harvestable yield. S1, S2, and S3, I mean, the second sulfur level and the third sulfur level, they have consumed the same amount of water. But the S2, there is no yield on it, but S3, we can see that there are fruits. And when we express the amount of fruits as a ratio of total fruit yield to the total biomass yield, we can see that the fruit yield contributes about 46%, whereas in the other 2 treatments, we only have 0 harvests. That means we can also here see that good nutrient supply helps in increasing harvest index, and this indirectly contributes to better water use efficiency. That means high yield per unit of water consumed. So far, I showed you results only in a greenhouse here, but you can see also more or less a similar result in the field. Here, we measured yield and water use efficiency of winter wheat from about 200 field trials here in Germany. And you can clearly see that with increasing nitrogen supply, the yield increased from 6.2 tons per hectare up to 11 tons per hectare. This is well, a high yielding area, obviously, with a low nitrogen supply to get 6 tons of yield is not common everywhere, but here in the temperate region it is possible. And so the average yield here in Germany is about between 9 and 10 tons per hectare at farmers' field. So on one hand, we see that yield is increasing, but we can at the same time see also agronomic water use efficiency is increasing from about 1 gram of grain per liter to 1.7 gram of grain per liter. So this also indicates that also in real condition and the farmer's field condition, improved crop nutrition contributes to improving water use efficiency. Here we have another field trial with potato. In this case, the trial was done with different nitrogen supply levels, with irrigation or without irrigation, and with fertigation and without fertigation. I'll explain it. So the green dots and the green line shows the yield or the water use efficiency for a crop which is fertilized in a normal way. That means broadcast fertilizer application. And the blue dots indicate that fertilizer application was used through fertigation. That means irrigation water was, the fertilizer application was done through irrigation. The other, the green dots and the green line shows that fertilizer was independently applied by broadcasting, and then irrigation was applied, without having any nutrient inside. So from this, we can see that with increasing nitrogen supply, just looking at the green dots, with increasing nitrogen supply, the agronomic water use efficiency increased. But also, in addition to that, if we use nutrient supply through fertigation, it even adds more. So fertigation improved the water use efficiency even much more than when fertilizer is applied by simply broadcasting. So this shows us that in addition to nutrient application, just as a conventional way, fertigation can even adds on. So the effect is much more in improving crop water use efficiency. In addition to crop nutrient management, water management or irrigation water management is very important, also as an important role in improving crop water use efficiency. If you just apply water at a constant rate during the whole growing season, that there may be excess amount of water applied. That means it does not match with the crop water requirement. The crop water requirement actually more or less follows this pattern of curve. So at the beginning of the growing season, the crop does not need much water because it is small plants or small biomass does not require much water. But as a crop grows and becomes bigger and bigger, the water consumption increases. And then after flowering and after setting fruit or grain, it is again starting to decline because of maturity. So this requires obviously matching or synchronizing water supply to the crop water demand. And that is only possible if if you use crop evapotranspiration as a basis for irrigation water management. So just blanket water application or blanket irrigation recommendation is not a good option. It has to be matched with a crop water requirement using crop evapotranspiration as a basis for irrigation scheduling. Similar to water demand, the crop nutrient demand is also not uniform during the season. At the beginning of the season, and also it's not only the quantity but also the ratio of the nutrient is not uniform. So at the beginning of the season, the crop requires phosphorus at high level and also nitrogen, but as a growth continues, the ratio changes. So especially after flowering, the requirement for potassium is becoming higher, and so it is necessary to adapt this crop nutrient requirement at each growing period of the crop, and through that it is possible to increase nutrient use efficiency for the crop. And this is possible especially when we use fertigation, because at any time of the season we can easily manage nutrient supply with irrigation water. And for this purpose, there are also products adapted for this purpose, or specialty products which are used for fertigation purpose, and also having different nutrient ratios which can be applied at different growth stage of the crop. There are examples of comparing the normal fertilization or the conventional broadcasting fertilization as compared to fertilizer application through irrigation water or fertigation. I will present to you an example of tomato grown in China under conventional fertilization versus fertigation application. So if you look at the yield and the normal fertilization is about 5.5 tons per plot, whereas under fertigation it's about 6.6, showing about 20% or 19% yield increase only because of better nutrient and better water management. At the same time, the water consumption was also different. So obviously under good nutrient and water management, that means under fertigation condition, only about 160 cubic meters of water was used, whereas under conventional condition, about 250 cubic meters of water was used, showing about 36% less water in case of fertigation. So in general, it is possible to improve water use efficiency if we use fertigation condition. So in summary, you can see that about 46% less water per ton of fruit, 16% less fertilizer per ton of fruit, and 19% more yield using 36% less water if we use fertigation, good fertigation management. So far I talked about nutrient supply levels, that means nutrient quantity, and nutrient application method. We also tested nutrient sources, if there are differences between different nutrient sources on crop yield and crop water use efficiency. For this purpose, we used two nitrogen sources, one ammonium and the second one nitrate. and two different water supply levels. One is well watered and water stressed condition. So if we look at the yield, grain yield of wheat under both water stressed and well water condition, nitrate is better than ammonium in terms of yield, about 57% increase, especially under water stress condition compared to ammonium, and also under well water condition still the nitrate is performing better than ammonium supply. If we look at water use efficiency, we see also a difference between ammonium and nitrate, particularly under stress condition, where we obtained better agronomic water use efficiency with nitrate. Under well water condition, the difference is not much, but the trend is again clear. And we asked what would be the reason behind such difference between ammonium and nitrate. There are more factors involved in that, but the main factor is rhizosphere pH. At the beginning of the experiment, the initial pH was about 5.5, but at the end of the experiment, the nitrate treated pods increased the pH to about 6, whereas ammonium treated plants reduced the soil pH to about below 4.5. And this reduction in soil pH caused actually adverse effect for the plant. I mean, it reduces root growth, and also it reduces biomass growth because of proton toxicity and other nutrient-related problems under low pH level. We also looked at different combinations of nitrate and ammonium. So the first case, pure ammonium. The second one is 50-50 ammonium and nitrate combination, and the third one nitrate alone. That means 100% nitrate. With a grain yield, first of all, with increasing nitrogen supply, yield increased, but there are differences depending on nitrate and ammonium ratios. We see at the optimal nitrogen supply, the pure ammonium form is lower than 50-50 combination and 100% nitrate. So we can see that the two, that means 50-50 or full nitrate is performing better in terms of yield. In a similar way, also for water use efficiency, if you just consider the optimal nitrogen supply, the 50-50 is performing much better than either of the two. So the selection of the right nutrient source is also necessary to improve both crop yield and crop water use efficiency. So coming to my initial question, I asked you how much water would be required to produce 1 kilogram or 1 ton of product under these two nutrient management scenarios. From our field studies, it indicated that under low nitrogen supply condition, one would require about 600 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of wheat grain. But under optimal nitrogen supply condition, only about 380 liters of water was required per kilogram of grain. So this is clearly an indication that with optimum nutrient supply, it is possible to reduce the amount of water required per unit of product produced. In fact, the ratio is could be different depending on the environmental condition. This experiment was done in Germany. It's a temperate climate, so 600 liters per kilogram of grain is probably not so much, but under tropical condition or under high temperature condition, this could be even high. But this relationship will always be the case. I mean, with optimal nutrient supply, you require less water per unit of grain or per unit of product. I came across a very recent case study in Brazil where different production scenarios were considered and to evaluate the water use efficiency or water productivity for 4 of most important Brazilian crops like cotton, maize, 2 different maize for season 1 and for main season and for the second season, soybean and wheat. So the management conditions probably have to explain first bars and the colors. The red color bars or whisker plots indicate that there is no fertilizer application. The orange one shows low management, low fertilizer application. That is 25 kilogram of nitrogen and 25 kilograms of phosphorus per hectare. The black one is a historical yield. The green one shows medium intensification or medium input level, which is 100 kilogram of nitrogen and 100 kilogram of phosphorus. And M2, turquoise color, shows medium nitrogen phosphorus supply with irrigation. And the second 2 shows P1 and P2, high nitrogen and phosphorus supply, which is 400 kilogram each per hectare. And in the case of P2, high nitrogen nitrogen and phosphorus supply plus irrigation. So if you see for each of these crops, with increasing nutrient management, the water use efficiency increased, independent of which crop it is. So this again indicates the role of the important role of crop nutrient management in improving water use efficiency. So in this study, they used historical yield from beginning of 1990s until 2013, and they did a calculation how much land and how much water would have been saved if this historical yield was used with a better nutrient management. So it shows that the blue one is nutrient supply plus irrigation, and the green one is only nutrient management with rain-fed agriculture. The difference is little, but then the trend is showing that lower cropland is required when both nutrient and water or irrigation is managed. But in general, with a nutrient management, about 40 to 47% of land could have been saved if the optimal nutrient would have been used. In the same way, the water, regarding water, compared to the historical yield or historical water consumption, if good nutrient and good irrigation management was used, about 40 to 42% of water could have been used. So this study also stresses that for better water use efficiency, it is necessary to manage nutrient supply and water supply to the crop. So how can we make use of this, or what can we contribute to our customers to obtain better water use efficiency? We have three core competencies: crop knowledge, consolidated and deep knowledge on crops. We have combination of portfolio. So we have wide and differentiated product range that can be combined for better results. And we have also application competencies. We have tools and services which will help to apply a fertilizer at the right rate and right time. Particularly tools like N-Sensor, N-Tester, Imageit, and so on. So if you need more information on these tools and product portfolio, you may contact sales agronomists in your locality. In addition to nutrient management, we are also developing irrigation management programs. The Yara digital solution or digital farm, Farmwater Advisor. The Farmwater Advisor generates field-specific crop water demand forecast that can be used for irrigation scheduling using local weather and local field-specific soil information, and of course agronomic modeling. Up to now, the model has been done for nuts, citrus, grapevine, and olives, and it has been calibrated for a region of California. And up to now, the calibration for other regions did not start, but depending on request, it can be done. The application itself can be used either as on mobile devices or on desktop applications. For mobile devices, you can directly download from app stores or from Google Play Store. For desktop application, that is only, I think, allowed for advisors or enterprises, which can be obtained by contacting the developer. Well, if you need to download it, you can contact the Farmwater Advisor, Yara Farmwater Advisor, or click on this link. Otherwise, you can also directly contact the developer, the team which is developing the Farmwater Advisor. So to come to the final point, summarizing what I've been saying up to now, optimal crop nutrition increases water use efficiency in that it reduces unproductive water loss, which is reducing the base soil evaporation and drainage losses. It also increases crop growth per unit of transpiration. And thirdly, it increases the conversion of crop biomass to economic yield. That means it increases harvest index. Nitrate-based nitrogen fertilizer resulted in high water use efficiency, especially under stress condition. And with optimal crop nutrition, less water is required per unit of product, whether it is fruit or in grain. And the Yara crop program helps you to achieve high yield, high water use efficiency, and high nutrient use efficiency, and of course also high land use efficiency, which is very much required. Also, considering the growing number of population in the world, but also at the same time considering the need to increase agriculture productivity. So our decision support tools can enable better nutrient management and also water management, and contribute in that way also for sustainable agriculture production. So thank you very much for attentively listening to my talk. And if you have questions, the floor is now open, and I will give the floor to Margarita.
Thank you very much, Janet, and to all this audience that is so enduring and stayed during the whole session with us. So we are actually over time, but I didn't make an alarm on it because we only have one question. And it's from Marcio Wali. He says, "Good morning. Is fertigation a tool to improve the use of water and fertilizers? What are the advantages?" I think you elaborated a bit, but if you have some comments, Jenny, that would be great.
Yes, I tried to indicate on my talk that fertigation improves water use efficiency, and also at the same time it improves nutrient use efficiency, because it is a flexible way of nutrient supply, adapting to the crop nutrient requirement in terms of nutrient quantity, and also the ratio of nutrients. So the crop requires different levels of nutrient at different growth condition or growth stage. So it makes this possible. So fertigation definitely improves both nutrient and water use efficiency.
Great. Thank you very much, Jenny. We have a great role in agriculture to reduce the water consumption and to expand its efficiency in the food production system. So I think these tools and concepts and knowledge is very valuable, and we as Yara and all the audience can put their drop, at least a drop in the ocean, but do our own to contribute to this global challenge by improving the crop nutrition, optimizing the nutrient use efficiency, and by that way also feeding the world responsibly and reducing the environmental impact. So for all of you who are joining right now, just to let you know, this talk will stay in YouTube, so it will be available after ending this session. So feel free, please, to share with other colleagues or members of the companies you represent. Complementary, you will receive an invite for the next webinar. It will be held by another colleague, researcher from Honey Hope Center, who is Ulrike Levender, and she will address soil health. So it's a series of webinars where we are approaching different environmental aspects, and it's great to have these scientists of such great experience sharing with us. So feel free to share among your community as well. Thank you again, and please feel free to contact us via different channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So we are there to support you and to stay in touch and connected to build on these conversations. Jenny, if you want to say some words or just goodbye, the floor is yours.
Great. I'm glad to have you here. I'm sorry that I surpassed the time limit.
Oh, it's okay.
But if there are questions, send me also by mail, and I'll reply to that.
No, it was perfect.
Great.
5 minutes, it's totally in line with what we expect. So thank you very much again. Have a great day, afternoon, wherever you are.
Great. So have a wonderful day.